Hello folks, welcome to the third video in the linear relations unit. This is going to be a relatively short one, especially where the last one was so long. But in this video we're going to talk about a type of linear relation that can kind of confuse some students. But it's very simple once we understand. So let's take a look. Suppose one of the variables just didn't happen. So usually we're used to the type of linear relations like the one expressed here, where something like x plus y equals 3. It's in a bit of a different form, but still this is a linear relation. But let's just say, for example, the x wasn't there. So if that was the case, we would just have the line y equals 3. This is still linear, right? It's still going to give us that linear relation. But what does it look like? Well, if I were to make myself a table of values, so x and y, even though there is no x, let's just say x is -2. Well, if x was -2, we come over to our equation and we say, well, what is y? If there is no x there, it doesn't change the value of y, so y is 3. And if x were -1, again, come over to our equation. Again, there's no x's, so it's not having an impact on the value of y. So again, y is 3. And if x were 0 or 1 or 2, we would see that we would get 3 and 3 and 3. Or in other words, what happens here is this is a line that only ever has a y coordinate of 3. So what does that look like? Well, it looks like a horizontal line. It looks like this. It looks like a line that passes through my y-axis at 3. So whenever I see the line y equals 3, it's a horizontal line. So this is where students usually get confused. They think because the y-axis is vertical, that if I have a line that's y equals something, it's also supposed to be vertical. And that's not the case, because this isn't talking about the axis, it's talking about the points. So each of these points on this line have a y coordinate of 3, no matter what x is. So x could be -5, y is 3. X could be -4, y is 3. X could be -2, y is 3. So it does not matter. Y is 3. So what ends up happening here is we get a horizontal line at 3 on the y-axis. Okay? Now, if we did the same thing, if we got rid of the y variable, we get the line x is 3, or x equals 3. Same thing happens. No matter what the value of y is, my x coordinate is always 3. So what that's going to look like is it's going to be a vertical line in which all of these points have an x coordinate at 3. Or in other words, it's a vertical line that passes through my x-axis at 3. Okay, so we can have horizontal and vertical lines when we're graphing these things. Usually our lines are some kind of diagonal shape, whether it's positive, going up or going down. But in this case, it can be horizontal or it can be vertical. Okay, so whenever I have an equation that is x equals some constant a, it is always going to give me a vertical line where every point on that line has an x coordinate of a, or in other words, it's going to pass through the x-axis at whatever a is. And then oppositely, if I have an equation that is y equals a, it's going to give me a horizontal line where every y coordinate has a value of a, or in other words, it's going to pass through my y-axis at whatever that number a is. Okay, so being able to describe these things and being able to recognize them is important. So let's just quickly talk about, let's do an example. It shouldn't be too hard to figure out what these things are, but let's see. So x equals -4. So again, what does that mean? It means that it's a line that's going to pass through my x-axis, so my x-axis at -1, 2, 3, 4. Right? So in order for it to pass through my x-axis, so again, don't get messed up. Just because it's x equals does not mean my line is horizontal. It actually means the opposite. It means my line is vertical, but it's a vertical line that's passing through my x-axis at -4. Y plus 2 equals 0. So be careful, because of that plus 2, it changes something. So what can we do to make this thing kind of what we want it to be? We can do a little bit of algebra. So instead of y plus 2 equaling 0, I can get rid of that plus 2 by minusing 2, as long as I also minus 2 on the other side of my equation, and this thing turns into y equals -2. So again, what does that mean? On my y-axis, this is a horizontal line that passes through at -2. And excuse my poor drawing there. There we go. And then finally, 2x equals 5. Again, I don't like this 2 in front of the x, so how do I get rid of it? I take both sides of my equation and I divide by 2, and I get x equals 2.5. So 1, 2, 3, so 0.5 is in the middle. And there we go. And again, because it's x, we know that this is a vertical line that's passing through my x-axis at 2.5, right here at 2.5, and then right here at -2. And that's it. There's not much more to this video other than just these types of lines. So I'll see you all in the next one.